Hi, I'm Alli.
And I'm Dylan. We're Gearheads at Backcountry.
And today we're going to talk about some harnesses that we really like for trad and sport climbing.
We've dropped a few timestamps in the description below, so feel free to jump around as you see fit. And let's get into it.
So Dylan, what do you look for in a climbing harness for sport climbing?
For sport climbing, I really want something that's going to be minimal. I want something that's breathable because sometimes I get a little sweaty on the wall, and something that I'm just going to be able to put on and forget about so I can focus on the climb. I'm not too worried about a ton of features and a ton of gear loops. Something that's a little lighter is more ideal.
You mean you don't need to take like 18 quick draws?
7 cams, 5 sets of nuts.
I really need a nut tool for my sport climb.
Just in case, for the beer after.
Of course.
What do you like to look for in fit and sizing with harnesses in
The
general?
main thing for me is fit. I am pretty small and I have a small waist and a big butt. So that's a hard thing to fit for with like a unisex harness. So I always look for a women's one. They typically have a smaller waist size, which is really perfect for me. And the main thing is that it feels comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. And it always helps to try on harnesses before you buy. So if you live near a backcountry store, going into the store to just see how it feels when you put it on, see how it feels when you hang in it, I find is really helpful.
Totally, yeah, always if you can, try on your harness first, and you can always do multiple sizes in your cart, order a couple, and return the one that you don't like.
Yeah, if you also don't live near a store, you can always feel free to call or chat, and a gearhead can help you out with sizing as well.
So the first harness we're gonna talk about, it's the Neon 3, but before we get into it, are you thinking about breakfast right now?
I might have some oats soon.
Oh, perfect, because that's the harness we're talking about. It's the Ocun Neon 3. It comes in men's and women's specific sizes. I was wearing the women's specific one on a recent trip to the Hurricane, and I had never climbed in this harness before, but I immediately knew it was like the best harness that I'd ever tried.
Yeah. What were some of the features that you liked about it, or what got you psyched about it?
I was super psyched because it fit so perfectly. Like
Yeah.
it felt really secure. Sometimes with harnesses, I feel like I'm like adjusting a million times, or like I can't get it tight enough to feel like it's gonna hold me up and I feel secure if I'm gonna fall. And this one, like it was adjustable in the legs and the waist, and it was perfect. It has 4 gear loops. It comes in sizes extra small through extra large, so it fits a lot more bodies than a lot of other harnesses on the market. And it's got a self-locking waistband, which is perfect because that is sort of a standard these days, and anything without it is not gonna be something we recommend.
Did you feel like it was pretty comfortable when you were hanging in it?
Yeah, and I definitely hung on it a lot. I was working on a 12A. I'm more of like an 11 climber, and so I was definitely rehearsing the crux of this one climb a few times, and so hanging on it, looking at the next move, it totally felt comfortable. I was never like, I can't wait to get out of this harness. I wore it literally all day and forgot I was wearing it. Okay, let's talk about the Petzl Sitta harness. You were wearing this one, and I know that you're a big fan.
Yeah, I'm biased maybe. I love this harness. It's super comfortable, super lightweight. I feel like I can put it on and forget about it for the whole day. It's never digging into any spots I don't want it to be digging into. Most of the time I'm sport climbing in it, so I don't have a ton of gear on it. But I do really like that it's got these rigid gear loops with these separators. So I can put my dog draw on the back separator and it's kind of a little bit more out of my way. Or if I take it out trad climbing, I can throw a bunch of gear on there and make sure everything's super organized. And then it actually has a little loop on the very back that is great for bringing up a separate line. But I also really like it if I'm putting a knife on there, a water bottle, or my approach shoes for the day if I take it up a multi-pitch.
Sweet, so 5 loops in total. How does it fit?
It's really comfy. I like it. It fits my body really well. It's also really breathable, which is great because I do a lot of sport climbing in the summer as well and can get a little sweaty sometimes. So having that extra breathability is really nice. I also really like that the back gear loops are flexible. They're not as rigid as the front gear loops. So they feel like they're kind of tucked away and not in my way when I'm not using them. And like most harnesses too, it's got quick adjust, auto adjust buckles, so I can tighten it down, set it, and forget it.
You want to talk about trad harnesses?
Sure.
Let's talk about trad harnesses.
So trad harnesses, I like having something that's gonna be really comfortable. It's gonna be versatile for if I'm gonna be doing some bigger days on the wall or just gonna be out cragging. A lot more features, a lot more gear loops. Some of the harnesses that we tested had a ton of gear loops, so you were able to throw a bunch of gear on there, keep it really organized, which I love.
I love that too. I'm definitely someone who will take more than I need. I want to zip it up. Like I want to have as many pieces as I could ever possibly use and then some extras. So I'm always looking for something with giant gear loops. And if there's a fifth one, that's a huge bonus.
I also thought that they were really comfortable, which is great if you're spending a big day out on the wall, if you're doing any big walling or aid climbing, or if you're just hanging at a hanging belay for a while. Maybe I'm your partner and I cannot figure out this move and I need to try it a bunch. That way your legs aren't going numb.
Comfort's another huge factor. I mean, you were saying if you are having trouble, usually it's me having trouble. I'm the one who's like struggling because the hand crack is wider than my tiny baby hands. But if I'm belaying somebody and they're taking a long time, I always want to feel comfortable at the belay, especially on multi-pitch climbing.
So the harness that I got to test out was the Ocun Webee big wall climbing harness. This one was a total beefcake.
Everybody loves a beefcake, especially when that beefcake is a harness.
This one was loaded with features, 7 gear loops, double belay loop, wear indicators on both of those, a fully rated haul loop, which is also really nice if you've got a tag line with you, and then adjustable leg loops and obviously an adjustable waistband as well. Everything's self-locking, so you don't have to worry about that. One plus that I really liked about this one too was the foam is this honeycomb, like perforated construction that was still really breathable despite the harness being like really plush and comfy. I feel like sometimes that's tricky to balance out with a big wall harness or trad harness, but this one knocked it out of the park. It was great.
So this one has 7 gear loops. How would you rack up all 7 loops if you had to?
That is a great question. You could just sew things up with this harness. I mean, you could throw your cams on the front gear loop here. You've got your anchors on the back. You could bring several sets of nuts, a ton of aid climbing equipment. There's a lot of stuff that you could do with this harness.
Sounds great for anyone who loves to organize.
I also really liked the dual belay loop. It's a little bit more of a niche feature, but one nice feature about this one, or one nice thing about this one, was the 2 belay loops fit inside of each other.
Whoa.
So the one was a little bit smaller than the other one, so it was easier to clip both of them if I wasn't necessarily using both separately. But if I wanted to grab both at a hanging belay or on a multi-pitch, or if I was aid climbing, it's really easy to do that too.
When's a time when you would use that feature of having a double belay loop?
So it's a little bit more of an aid specific feature. So you might have like your daisies on one or your Fifi on the other. I actually really like it if I'm multi-pitch climbing. So if I've got if I'm tied into my anchor on one of them, I can be belaying off the other, and the organization is a little bit cleaner. It's a little bit of like a luxury feature, a little bit more niche, but it is a nice to have, especially if you're getting a harness that's gonna be specific to trad and especially big days on the wall. It was also really comfortable hanging in it, which is always great in a trad harness. That should just be a baseline prerequisite to a trad harness, but yeah, very comfortable, breathable if you're sitting in the sun as well. All around, I enjoyed this one. What was the harness you wore on the trad day?
I was wearing Mammut's Comfort Fast Adjust harness. I was wearing the women's specific version. I really liked this harness. It was super, super comfortable. The leg loops and the waistband are both a little bit more padded and a little bit larger in size. So rather than like a little skinny leg loop, it's nice and big. So it feels like when you're sitting on it, it's not like uncomfortable. You can really like sit and have a tea party in it if you wanted to. So comfort-wise, definitely top notch. The gear loops on this harness, they're sort of like a plasticky, rigidy material, and it's really nice for getting gear on and off. So I definitely panic sometimes when I'm placing cams, and it helped that I wasn't also like trying to get gear off sporadically. It was like very smooth.
How about the hard points on this harness? There's a few cool features on this one.
Yeah, so the hard points, so when you're tying in, it actually has 2 plastic reinforcements. So a lot of times your harness, the first place it wears is going to be your tie-in points, and these ones are reinforced, so it's gonna really help this harness live a lot longer. So if it's one that you really love, you don't have to sacrifice it early.
Yeah. And then like a lot of the harnesses we tested, it's also got those wear indicator threads. So once the tie-in points start to wear out, it'll actually give you a heads up too, so that you know it's time to replace it.
Okay, there's one more cool thing about this harness that I was really psyched on. When I first put it on and I tried to rack my nut tool onto it, the carabiner on the nut tool was too small for the gear loop, and I was at first very upset. And then I realized that it has its very own special loop that is specific for a nut tool, and I loved that because I always lose it on my harness. So if you're somebody who loses your nut tool on your harness, this is the harness for you.
Cool, so that wraps up our best harnesses for 2024 for our climb guide. Thanks so much for watching.
If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have any lingering questions, which I always do, reach out to a gearhead. They're always down to help.